Bill Belichick to the Falcons is heating up. And actually, it's so hot that we had to stop filming halfway through our video because we got more rumors coming in that it's going to be a done deal and Belichick is going to be the next head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. But let's start at the beginning of the story, which is Ian Rapoport tweeted out this morning, sources, former Patriots coach Bill Belichick will have a second interview with the Falcons brass this weekend after meeting with owner Arthur Blank one-on-one this past week. Things are ramping up with the greatest coach of all time. If that's not enough tea leaves for you guys to believe he's going to be the next head coach, how about this from Josina Anderson, who tweeted out a novel, so let's break it down. Barring a snag in negotiations or a future development, still have to get a signature, I'm expecting Bill Belichick to become the next head coach of the NFC South, I don't know why there's an asterisk, Atlanta Falcons. His previous rapport with Falcons CEO Rich McKay creates comfort he can't mimic in any other building with a current vacancy. Owner Arthur Blank is very skilled at being convincing in selling the benefits of coming to Atlanta, as I learned from Calais Campbell. The GM dynamic in Atlanta is presumably more palatable for Bill in Flowery Branch than it would be in Philly. And as mentioned, both sides have been talking about this through for a while, thus my previous reports. I expect Belichick to reunite with some members of his former staffs whenever he makes it official. It's a done deal. I mean, it might not be a done deal just yet, but it's going to be a done deal. Bill Belichick, whether you like it, love it, or hate it, is going to be the next head coach of your Atlanta Falcons. So I'm going to give you my take on all this in just a moment, but quick reminder, quick plug, subscribe to the channel because when the news does become official, you don't want to be in the dark. You want to be the first one to know in your friend group. So make sure you have your notifications on and subscribe to the channel to help us reach 18,000 subscribers. I knew Bill Belichick to the Falcons was going to happen as a fact the moment I got this tweet when standing in line at Chipotle last night. Dallas is not making a head coaching change, and Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy is returning for the 2024 season per Adam Schefter. When I said on Monday was that the only way Bill Belichick does not come to the Falcons is that if the Cowboys job opens up and Bill decides, let me go coach a 12-win team that just needs to get over the hump a little bit. But now that Jerry Jones is accepting mediocrity and he is okay with bringing McCarthy back, that leaves one team that has any sort of interest in Bill Belichick, and that is the Atlanta Falcons. Belichick has not interviewed for any other team, and the Falcons, while they've completed a handful of interviews, Belichick firmly appears to be their guy. And then to add on to this, a little cherry on top, we had Jeremy Fowler hop on SportsCenter, and he had this to share. We were hearing for a while that the Falcons were interested, and so now I'm hearing that there is mutual interest between the Falcons and Belichick. To what extent? Still unclear. But enough for them to meet in person with owner Arthur Blank, talking to Belichick, hashing out what their vision might be for that program for a team that's really a quarterback away. I was told from the beginning that Belichick would likely target talented yet underachieving teams. Atlanta probably falls in that category. Bill Belichick is 15 wins away from tying Don Shula's all-time win record. But I also believe that he might have a little bit of pride. There might be a little bit of ego with Bill Belichick. And what has been the narrative over the last 3, 4, 5 seasons? It's that Tom Brady won that separation, went on to win a Super Bowl with the Buccaneers, and Bill Belichick is standing in Foxborough, freezing his ass off, winning 4 games last year. But if he goes to an underachieving team, which I think the Falcons fairly fall in that bucket, they missed the postseason, 3rd straight 7-win season, and he brings them to the top of the mountain, I mean, there won't be much of a debate anymore as to who was the GOAT or who was the main driver in that Super Bowl domination run in New England, Brady or Belichick. We're just going to have to agree it was in a 50-50 split. Both of them deserve a lot of credit and a fair amount, an equal amount for all the success they achieved in New England. Now, when we look at the NFL head coaching vacancies, I believe the Chargers are going to get it done with Jim Harbaugh. The Carolina Panthers are going to hire some young hotshot OC that's just desperate to take a head coaching job because I wouldn't touch that job with a 10-foot pole. The Raiders are going to bring back Antonio Pierce. The Titans are quietly a dumpster fire. I don't understand why they moved on from Mike Vrabel. The Seahawks is an interesting one to watch for, but I've heard zero buzz between Belichick and Seattle. Washington looked like they might be in on Belichick a few weeks/months ago. There's a lot of good lacrosse players in Maryland, and we know how much Bill loves lacrosse, but haven't heard much about Belichick to the Commanders, which leaves just one team, your Atlanta Falcons. Now, the Falcons have completed 7 interviews so far. Now, reminder, in order to comply with the Rooney Rule, you must interview in person 2 external minority candidates. Ejiro Evero checks that box, but no one else is interviewed in person as a minority candidate, right? Steve Wilkes was a virtual interview because the 49ers are still in the playoffs. Same goes for Anthony Weaver. Like, the rest of them have not been in-person interviews. So I'm predicting right now, this time next week, when a couple more teams hop out of the playoffs and the Falcons can complete another external minority interview and they comply with the Rooney Rule, that they will go and get their number one target from the beginning, which is Bill Belichick. Now, I understand not a lot of you guys are jumping up and down at the prospect of hiring Bill Belichick. And at the beginning, I wasn't either. I thought Bill Belichick had let the game pass him a little bit. But maybe it's just the way I operate as a fan, but I always want to believe that my team is making a good decision. And it's hard to act like hiring Bill Belichick would be a disastrous move. So how would you guys grade a hire of Bill Belichick? When it happens, next Thursday maybe? The NFL does a really good job of not cucking each other, so they're not going to get in the way of the AFC and NFC championship game with a Belichick to the Falcons news. So it's probably going to either happen right before next weekend or right after next weekend. Coop thinks after. I'm thinking after as well. So how would you grade it? A, B, C, D, or F? Get in the comment section right now and let me know. Now, before I give you guys my opinion on what a hire for Bill Belichick would look like, I do want to shout out our sponsor today, which is Prize Picks. Thanks to Prize Picks, I had an absolute blast watching football this year because I was staying locked in on some of the more, less exciting primetime matchups. Looking at you, Carolina. But with Prize Picks, you can actually make some money while watching football. So take the divisional round matchups here. I'm taking the less on Jordan Love's passing yards. All you do is select 2 to 6 players and pick more or less on their projected stats. I like the more George Kittle, 2 weeks of rest, 52.5 receiving yards. And then I like the more for David Montgomery at 57.5 rushing yards against a Bucs defense that's been up and down throughout the season. So go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. I put that link in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Now, I can understand there are some pros and cons to hiring Bill Belichick. Let's run through the pros. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this. He won 6 Super Bowls as the head coach in New England, one of which stings, and that kind of leads us to one of the cons. He's the ultimate culture installer, meaning if Bill comes to Atlanta and maybe he doesn't win a Super Bowl, I do believe he will leave the Falcons in a better spot than how he found them, right? That locker room is going to be in a much better place in terms of a level of excellence demanded out of all 53 players. He's also the greatest coach of all time. Like, I was trying to think of a third pro, and I'm like, Petey, it's Bill fucking Belichick. Like, what are we doing here? Cons, it hasn't been smooth sailing since Tom Brady left, 27-38. He had a career low 4 wins this past season, and then there's the whole Super Bowl 51 thing. And if you can't get over that, I'm not going to be mad at you. Like, I'm not going to say you're being salty, you got to move on. That's a tough thing to, move on from. So I can understand why people on that reason alone go, I don't want to touch Bill Belichick. My biggest concern with the idea of hiring Belichick is, can he nail the quarterback selection, right? All we've heard all week long is that the Falcons are just one quarterback away from being real contenders in the NFC. And we hear that every single offseason for a handful of teams. I remember when we heard that for the Denver Broncos, and then they got Russell Wilson, and that didn't work out. And then they went and got Sean Payton, and they still missed the playoffs this year. But Bill Belichick, if he can find the right quarterback and you pair that with the rest of this roster, an incredible offensive line, a young and talented skill group position with Bijan, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts, and a defense that's right in the middle of the pack, and Bill Belichick can take a middle of the pack 15th, 16th ranked defense and make them a 9th, 8th ranked defense without making major personnel changes. Call me crazy. I don't like store-bought pesto, and I believe the Falcons could probably win the NFC South next year. And look at the Buccaneers. They won 9 games this year, and they are in the divisional round. Don't you think Bill Belichick could have the Falcons in the same spot next season? Now, the big decision is what to do at quarterback, right? This is fortunately a loaded quarterback draft class. Caleb Williams and Drake May, unless the Falcons move up, will be long gone by the 8th overall pick. But Jaden Daniels could very likely be there. Michael Penix and J.J. McCarthy and Bo Nix, they're still in between round 1 and round 2 in my eyes. So if the Falcons didn't want to go with one of those guys in the first round, they could probably pick them up in round number 2. But whoever the Falcons hire for the head coaching job, they will have a big decision to make. And then there's the idea of trading for Justin Fields, right? Holding on to your 8th overall pick, probably costing you a 2nd and a 3rd to go get Justin Fields, and then using that 8th overall pick on whoever the hell you want. Get an edge rusher, right? Get a playmaker on offense. Give Drake London a running mate, because right now he's the only wide receiver under contract for 2024. You pair Drake London with Malik Neighbors, Bijan Robinson, Justin Fields, and Bill Belichick is running the defense. I understand a lot of you guys have made up your minds on Belichick, and I'm coming around to the idea of hiring him. Don't sit there and type in the comment section that roster would not kick ass and take names. So who do you want to start at quarterback in 2024? One of the rookies we just looked at, Justin Fields, someone else? Let me know down below in the comment section. Now, ultimately, like I said earlier, at the beginning of the Bill Belichick to the Falcons rumor mill, I was not head over heels in love with the idea. But the more I think about it, the more I warm up to it. The more I believe that the Falcons are not a franchise that needs a master rebuilding, right? They won 7 games last year, and they were very close to winning 8 or 9 and making the playoffs. I think Bill Belichick can probably pick up a couple of wins for them. And once you get into the postseason and you're playing a home playoff game, anything can happen. Now, that's going to do it for us on today's show. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. That way, when news breaks, you are not in the dark. And if you're already subscribed, turn on your notifications.